Hello, and welcome back to the EV Geek Podcast, where we dive into the latest and greatest in the world of electric vehicles. My name is Joel. I am your host, and today we're shifting gears into a fascinating topic, the Dodge Charger EV. Yes, you heard that right. The iconic muscle car is going electric. In this episode, we're going to explore if the Dodge EV is a game changer in the electric vehicle market. We'll look at its design, performance, and how it stays true to its muscle car roots while embracing cutting-edge electronic technology. Whether you're a die-hard Dodge fan or just curious about the future of electric performance, this episode is packed with insights about this vehicle you won't want to miss. So let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast today. As always, we are joined again with Sebastian from the Kilowatt Station. Sebastian, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty all right.
All right. We would also like to formally welcome Dodge to the EV world. As you know, Dodge has not been on the forefront with electric vehicles, but now they are deciding to get their feet a little wet. So Dodge, which is part of the Stellantis group, which includes brands like Jeep and Chrysler, they've been quiet on the EV front here in North America. They really only have the plug-in hybrids like the Jeep Wrangler and the Grand Cherokee 4xe. I've driven both those vehicles and rode in both of those vehicles, solid hybrid, plug-in hybrid vehicles, and they actually do sell pretty well. Dodge's first EV will be an iconic one, the Dodge Charger. So they're calling this the next-gen muscle car and the world's only electric muscle. If you're into muscle cars and into EVs, then this may be the perfect match for you. So let's dive a little deeper about what Dodge has in plan for their new Dodge Charger. First off, looking at performance, Dodge stated that this car will have more thrills that surpass its legendary V8 gas performance. The 670 all-wheel drive horsepower Dodge Scat Pack version is what they're calling it. Cool name, I must say. Is expected to hit 0 to 60 mile per hour range in about 3.3 seconds. That gets in the neighborhood of the Performance Model Y, which is 3.5, and the Model 3, which is 2.9, but you can't compare that to those vehicles. This is a true kind of muscle car that they're turning into an EV, not a sedan, not an SUV. Dodge
isn't it
also
crazy
states,
though that
yeah.
Isn't it crazy though that I see 670 now and to me it's not even that high.
I know 670 like a year or two ago, but like, dang, that's a lot. Now you're seeing these cars like 1,000, 900.
You know,
like,
you have
670,
vehicles
it's
like
okay.
yeah, like the quad motor R1T having over 1,000 horsepower and stuff like that, but completely different kind of car. And I have a feeling it's 670, and then in the future there's going to be a Hellcat or a Demon version of it that's going to, have
definitely.
even more power.
Definitely. Dodge also states that the car will target a quarter mile of 11.5 seconds. That's kind of May too. I will say this will be the first type of muscle car electric vehicle we have seen on the road. I think Chevy's thinking about coming out with an EV. The Corvette's coming out with an EV. Haven't really seen a lot about that. But what I'm curious is how kind of like your traditional Charger fans will react to this vehicle. How do you think they're going to react to this?
That's kind of tough. I think it's going to probably be do better with people who already are into EVs and kind of want the muscle car experience. I think it's going to be a minute before we see your traditional Charger owner really embrace it.
True. I mean, they are still, originally Dodge said Dodge Charger EV, that's it. Now they've kind of backtracked. They are coming out with a regular version of the Dodge Charger. So there will be a gas-powered one and an EV-powered one as well. So if you still like that true muscle car,
I think the gas one is actually a hybrid, but
it's a hybrid.
Still, though, it's kind of a more traditional.
Got you there. All right, so let's talk a little about this Dodge Charger Scat Pack. So it features twin 335 horsepower electric motors with one driving the front wheels and one driving the rear wheels, creating that combined 670 horsepower and that estimated 627 pounds of instant torque. The rear motor houses a mechanical limited slip differential to minimize slipping during the high-powered all-wheel drive launch modes, because people are going to launch these when they get them. That's what people do in their Dodge Chargers. Anytime you get, as a Tesla owner, the only people who want to race me off the line, at a stop sign, at a red light, or Dodge Chargers. So you also have the line lock for the smoky burnouts, and you have the launch control for the perfect start off that line. Like I said, if you want to launch it off the line. What else about this car, Sebastian, do we know?
Yeah, so they're claiming currently 100.5 kilowatt hour battery pack, and it was designed from ground up, for the vehicle, and its kind of intended purpose is performance. So they're using nickel cobalt aluminum chemistry packaged into a prismatic structure and then distributed across 13 modules. So kind of similar to some other packs that we've seen, when using the modular design, so they can add modules, subtract modules for different vehicles. They're claiming that the initial peak on the battery pack is 550 kilowatt, which is a pretty decent peak output, and is able to sustain 500 kilowatts for a full quarter-mile run. Do you think it's kind of interesting? So I'm assuming with that kind of peak power, this is a high voltage pack, and if that's like a 800 volt class pack, because otherwise you would need an insane amount of amperage to get 500 kilowatt out of it on a 400 volt pack. But it's kind of interesting because I believe this is on a similar platform to the new Wagoneer S, which is only a 400 volt pack. Which we've talked about some in a previous episode, if you haven't seen it before, but kind of get into some of the claims of a Wagoneer S that we're kind of skeptical of just because we've been told it's a 400 volt pack.
And one of those would be charging speed with a 400 volt pack. So
Right.
Yep.
They're also doing on the Scat Pack, they're calling it the Fratsonic Chambered Exhaust, which is a really fancy name, and I understand why they're doing it. Fratsonic is kind of a heritage term for Dodge that was used back in the day, and the little triangle shape they're putting on it is called like a Fratsog. Anyway, it's kind of cool, but all that name is, it's a speaker system on the outside of the car that resembles the sound of a traditional V8 engine. So if you like that, if you're into that kind of thing, this is great for you. I'm a little indifferent on it currently. It does, I think, sound pretty spot on for what they wanted in a lot of the instances. They've released kind of a video either last week or the week before showing off the sound, and just running it straight, and there's a clip in it and they're running it straight down kind of a strip, and it sounds just like what you would expect a Dodge Charger to sound like. It sounds like a rumbly V8. You hear a little bit of that electric motor whine, but then otherwise, it's just that kind of, traditional rumble. That said, in the same video clip, they had a instance of it where they were doing donuts in it. And then, to my opinion, it sounded really bad. You could just hear, because it was like the rumble wasn't quite loud enough for a vehicle that does donuts. And so you just have this kind of low rumble and this really loud electric motor whine. It was a weird combination of sounds. I didn't like it at all.
So question, do you control the sound, or is the sound, I wonder if you just hit it, the sound, says I'm going to play for 5 seconds and cut off, or you actually have buttons to control it, turn it off and on?
So I imagine you can turn it off and on. They haven't really talked about if there's going to be kind of like in the Ioniq 5N where you have different modes, where you kind of have different sound profiles. But in the video they uploaded, it did sound very much like gradually the sound increases kind of as it accelerates and then decreases as it decelerates. So it does seem to kind of follow throttle mapping of well, I guess it's not really throttle mapping, but you know what I mean. So it does seem to do that. It doesn't seem like it's kind of a constant noise or anything like that. But they haven't really shown off whether or not there's different profiles for it.
Gotcha. All right, so let's switch gears and kind of look at the interior of the car. So what I'd say, it's got a pretty cool look. It has a clean, kind of like that minimalist design. It's a 12.3-inch center display. It's got ambient lighting with 64 colors to choose from. So that's a lot of colors to choose from. I'm assuming that will be through the car, maybe through an app, not sure, probably through the car. It has the flat top and bottom steering wheel. So the steering wheel kind of has that flat top, kind of similar, I guess, to almost like the Cybertruck has that kind of, it's rounded, but the top and bottom are kind of flat. Dodge is calling this center console mission control center. That's kind of the whole middle unit there. The car will include satellite radio, Apple CarPlay, Android Audio for those who like that, and Amazon Alexa. You will have the option to use your phone as a key through the Dodge app. Heads-up display will be available on some models. Premium sound using 9 Alpine speakers. That's 506 watt stereo with a subwoofer. Or you can bump it up if that's just not enough sound for you and you need 18 speakers in a car this size. You can get the 914 watt Alpine system. All right, what else about this session do we know about?
Yeah, so they don't, they're calling the mission control center. I imagine it's probably going to be the same Uconnect system they have in a lot of their other newer models, which is fine. I hear it's a great system, but I don't know why they're trying to brand it as something different, because I imagine it's not anything different. But one of the interior features, and it's kind of a powertrain feature too, is it has a boost mode, which they're calling Power Shot, where you can press a button and you get an additional 40 horsepower for up to 15 seconds, which I'm a little iffy on this whole boost kind of the boost button situation. In my opinion, you should be you can just, mat your foot to the floor, get that extra power for 15 seconds and then have it kind of roll off. You shouldn't really need to hit a special button that then limits you for just give it to me. If I put my foot to the floor, give me all the power. That's kind of my opinion on it. But some people like it, some people don't. Hyundai did the same thing, on the Ioniq 5N, having the kind of in-grin boost or whatever they called it. It's fine. For me, I would like to just have my foot to the floor and get full power. But anyway, the exterior design to me also very much, it does a really good job of kind of heralding back to that classic, 60s and 70s Charger look. And it's got the rear seats, they fold flat. And important to note, it's a hatchback, which should make that trunk way more usable. You also get a small frunk that is optional. I don't know if you'd seen that yet. But
I haven't,
Dodge
so
announced,
I'm thinking it's probably the size of my Kia EV6 trunk.
Like the frunk is only available with certain packages. Otherwise, I guess you just get empty space under the hood.
It gets empty space, but I heard it's not that big. You probably feel like a blanket or pillow. So it can't be that big.
It's not that big. But I just can't believe that we're making basically a plastic tub an optional feature. Anyway, the car is also going to be available as a 2-door and a 4-door model, and I believe the 2-door model is what's coming out first, and then the 4-door model will come out later, which is kind of perfect because they're killing the Charger, gas Charger, and the Challenger. So by having a 2-door and a 4-door model, they're kind of filling both of those gaps.
Gotcha. So it does come in these kind of like these different drive modes, and I'll kind of talk about them if you want to elaborate on them too more. So the first one is track mode. So I'm assuming this one is performance racing expired mode. If you want to take it out to the track, kind of do a couple loops around it, you put it in track mode. Is that kind of correct?
Yeah, which I'm curious to know. Muscle cars aren't really known for cornering performance. And so I'm curious to know if maybe track mode does any suspension changes that kind of would help it, kind of tackle a corner better.
Yep. Next, of course, is all important to Dodge owners is the drag mode. So that's your straight line acceleration. So that's the mode you can put it in. You're racing off the line, or if you're at the track and you're racing straight line, you put in that drag mode line acceleration. This is the one that you talk a little bit more about, the donut mode. So this one causes, which I don't know why you want to put it on here, causes the rear wheels to spin, allowing the vehicle to rotate around either the front wheels without intervention from the traction control system. So you saw some videos on this. What is the whole purpose of this donut mode? Just for gimmicks?
So I mean, it's exactly what it says it is. Basically, it allows you to have the rear wheels. It will kind of use that limited slip differential, and it'll shut off your traction control so that you can just sit there and roast your back tires. Do what every Dodge owner wants to be able to do.
Yes.
Make a lot of smoke, make a lot of noise.
I feel like it's like a Fast and Furious movie we're talking about here. Is what I feel like.
Honestly, yeah.
With EVs, you just wouldn't hear anything. All right, next up you have the drift mode, which just allows 3 levels of slip angles, rear axle torque, and tailored damper settings to offer the experience and thrill of the drift. I got to see how this one. I got to see this in person. So how this will work on an EV with a drift mode. I'm not sure about that. Little odd. And the last one, of course.
I don't know. The Ioniq 5N, I believe, also has a similar drift mode, and there are some videos of the Ioniq 5N doing some legitimate drifts. So I imagine it'll be similar.
Yes. And of course, the all-important, the boring one, which is sport mode. So this one is just improved handling and importance. This will probably be your everyday driving mode that you're going to be in if you're just driving around town.
Right. I'm assuming sport mode would have to be the base mode because it's a sports car. So it having a sport mode seems like that would just be normal mode.
Yeah, anyway. They're probably not going to have like an eco mode like most cars have, an eco mode or something like that, like most EVs have, to save on energy. Also has very basic, some of your basic and other safety features, standard automated emergency braking with pedestrian detection. So that's interesting. I'm seeing how that works. Tesla has kind of gotten a rap where, maybe its system doesn't do pedestrian detection if someone's walking across the street. I'll be curious to see how Dodge does this with their vehicles. Has adaptive cruise, and it has available camera-based parking. feature, parking assistant features. So tell us a little bit about these two trims that you can get this car in, Sebastian.
Yeah, so they're initially kind of announced the Charger Daytona RT and the Daytona Scat Pack. It's important to note Daytona here is what signifies it's the EV version of the Charger.
Oh, okay.
There's going to be the hybrid version, and I can't remember off the top of my head what they're calling it, but it's the Charger something else. So Daytona is the important signifier to signify you have the EV new Charger. But so you have the Daytona RT and the Daytona Scat Pack. So the Daytona RT will start at 61,000 and some change, with the Scat Pack going up to 75,000 and some change. It's important to note that as of now, these vehicles will not qualify for the $7,500 tax credit. I'm assuming that must mean the battery pack is coming from somewhere, the critical materials of the battery pack don't line up, or a final point of origin, something like that. RT will have a 0 to 60 time of 4.7 seconds, which is fine. It kind of struggles, that's plenty quick, but is it muscle car? I don't know. Dodge is claiming a driving range of up to 317 miles for the RT, which is a 100 kilowatt hour battery, so that would be 3.17 miles to kilowatt hour average, which is kind of low, but also just average. And then 260 miles for the Scat Pack, which makes sense. That's your go fast, dual motor, kind of monster, if you will. They're claiming a 20 to 80% charge time of 27 minutes, which is kind of slow if it's going to be a high voltage battery pack. Again, I don't know if it's not a high voltage battery pack, it makes it hard for me to understand how they're going to get 500 kilowatts of output sustained out of the pack, because that would be an insane amount of amperage. But if it is a high voltage battery pack, why does it take 27 minutes to go from 20 to 80% when we have vehicles like the Hyundai and Kias that will do that, 10 to 80% in 18 minutes. Anyway,
yeah, and if I remember correctly, that's about the same number as the Wagoneer was when we did that episode. I think the Wagoneer was like 27 to 32.
Right. So I haven't quite figured out the Stellantis battery math pack yet, or maybe the curve is just really has a high peak and then just falls really quick.
Drops
I don't
off.
know. I haven't quite figured out what they're doing here. This will be, once we actually get some people who have them on the road and can test them, maybe it'll start to make more sense.
True.
But they're they're saying at a 350 kilowatt fast charger, you'll add 9.9 miles per minute, which is a weirdly specific number, or 8.1 miles per minute on the Scat Pack. We'll see. They're planning on fall 2024 for the release of the 2-door models, which is right around the corner. And then I think the 4-door models are set to be early 2025.
All right, and last thing is about charging. So Dodge also plans to allow customers to use charging credits to Stellantis free-to-move charge EV charging program. That will be interesting to monitor. Do you know anything about this program or not?
I imagine it's, from what I can kind of understand, they're giving you the option of either A, having a level 2 charger installed at your house, or allowing you to have like a certain amount of kind of free credit to use at, the major charging networks. I don't know if it's going to be EA or EV Go, but that's what I understand the program to be.
Have we heard anything about this being CCS or orNEX?
I haven't heard anything, but I think I saw in a picture that they had on their site or maybe it was in a video that they had posted. It looked like it was a J1772 plug.
Gotcha. All right, so I'll kind of give you my final thoughts on the Charger. So as a pure EV enthusiast, just someone who likes electric vehicles, I'm pretty psyched about this car. A muscle car EV, that's pretty dope, I must say. This will be the first muscle car that transitions to an EV kind of here in America. The outside and inside look like a traditional 1960 Dodge Charger, and I'm very curious how all those drive modes will work. Can't wait to see them in action. Dodge is late to the electric vehicle game here in America. Stellantis has been making electric vehicles for quite some time in Europe, but have been slow to roll them out here in the States. They have had some success with the 4xe plug-in versions of the Jeep and Grand Cherokee. I'm also interested in how hardcore gas-powered Dodge Charger enthusiasts will take this vehicle, and its hardcore EV owners will take a chance, and if hardcore EV owners will take a chance on a Dodge electric vehicle. A lot of people kind of already got their mind set of what they want for an EV. If you have someone now coming in late to the game, what are your final thoughts about this, Sebastian?
Yeah, so I'm sure it's kind of seemed through here that I've kind of poked fun at it, but really to me this it encapsulates everything that a Dodge Charger is kind of supposed to be, right? It's supposed to be like if they're trying to market it as a muscle car, then it needs to have it needs to be silly. It needs to have kind of these goofy features like being able to line lock it and do donuts or drift it, whatever. That's part of what makes a muscle car, right? Is it has the ability to do these silly, goofy things. It's not just a fast car. And so really, to me, it seems like it's kind of the perfect, if it can do everything that Dodge is claiming it can do, it will be a good EV muscle car, kind of the first that we've seen, and I've brought up the Ioniq 5 a couple of times in here just because it kind of really, up until now, is the only, and there will be people that be mad when I say this because the Mach-E GT exists and the Model 3 Performance exists, but it is really kind of the only EV that we've really seen so far that is a driver track kind of focused EV, right? They've got all the drive modes and the features and the in-grin boost, which is a terrible name, but whatever, that's what they call it, and the simulated exhaust and the ability to have the simulated transmission shifts and all that. It kind of has, it's really trying to bring in that traditional gas performance car, but then it has the EV powertrain. There are, of course, other performance EVs, but they kind of lean more heavily in the whole EV thing of you put your foot down, it slams you into your seat, and it just goes, right? So it's cool to me to see Dodge maybe coming out with something that will, really cater to your traditional gas vehicle owner, but then still give you the benefits of driving an electric car. You still get the instant torque, you still get all the fun of just, absolutely, coming out of a corner, flooring it, pinning yourself to the seat, So I think it's a very good first entry for Dodge, and it makes sense that they chose the Charger to do it on because it's an established name. It's a name known for the muscle car. It's known for, we have the Demons and the Hellcats and these super fast, super, low 0 to 60, low quarter-mile time vehicles. And so why not continue that with the EV?
I couldn't agree more. So what do you all think will be the customer base for the EV? Feel free to give us your comments and opinions below. We always love reading them. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tap that notification icon. Also, don't forget to head on over to X and subscribe to the Kilowatt Station. Thank you all for joining us today, and we will see you on our next episode. So long, everyone.
See y'all.